let's talk to the Diddy. He's the maestro of chronicling all this stuff, all of it, through all the years, all the teams, and what he saw last night is very special. It's always special for us to talk to Ray Didinger. It's 94 WIP HD1 Philadelphia, as we broadcast today from the Tasty Cake Studio, and especially special to talk to Ray Didinger the day after the Philadelphia Eagles, for the second time in franchise history, hoist the Vince Lombardi Trophy. Good morning to you, Ray.
Good morning, Joe. How are you doing?
Oh, Ray. I had some tears going there during that montage for a portion. So first off, Ray, let me just say an honor to talk to you on this glorious day. You know we love you. And put into words, if you can, Ray, for all the... I mean, we could have millions of listeners right now. I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No, it wouldn't. If you can, Ray, please put into words, as only you can, what the Philadelphia Eagles did last night and what it means to our town.
Oh, I think you did I think you did a pretty good job on it, and I think Merle and Mike did a pretty good job on it in real time last night. It was historic what we saw, and it was one of the things. I guess it's just it's an outgrowth of Philadelphia and who we are as a people and who we are as a town and how we're perceived. Things just generally don't come easily to us.
Yeah, that's right.
They just don't. You think about the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl with Andy Reid. That was a great season. It was a glorious season. And then in December, T.O. breaks his leg, and everybody's there's wailing and weeping in the streets. And then you have the year, 2017, when everything's going great and they're the best team in football, and Carson Wentz is the MVP, and he goes down. And then they somehow right the ship and go on and complete the journey anyway and win the Super Bowl. And then this year, which, you really have to start the story of this year with the ending of last year,
yep.
as you pointed out. I mean, which ends in just complete collapse and ashes. That's how you start. I mean, that's where the story of this year starts. And with tremendous uncertainty about whether the coach is even going to be back,
sure,
how much change there's going to be for this team. Is Hurts really the quarterback moving forward? I mean, there were so many questions, and not at all answered in the first 4 weeks of the season. If anything, the feeling is that this is the same team that we just saw at the end of last year. And to go from that to where we were last night, where you're up 24-0 on the two-time defending world champions at halftime. I mean, it really does make your head spin to see all that happened. But in many ways, it's so Philadelphia, because I've been born and raised here. I'm a lifetime Philadelphian. I've followed all these teams, and if I've learned one thing in my near 80 years, it's that nothing in this town's ever going to come easy. Mm-hmm. Even when it looks like the final score would make you think it was easy, all of us who lived through it know it was anything but easy. But in the end, you got it done, and in the end, it was just a tremendous achievement for the coach, who was under fire for a good portion of the year, and for the quarterback, who was under fire no more than 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. To come away to Nick Sirianni get the Gatorade bath, and for Jalen Hurts to leave New Orleans with the MVP trophy. It seemed improbable, but it actually seemed fitting at the same time.
How many performances can you recall that were this complete, Ray? It just feels like there's no weakness. If you're giving each segment of the team a grade, it's like how do you give anyone less than an A? This completeness feels unique. It feels like we saved the best for last this season. Can you recall a team being this excellent when it matters most?
In terms of Super Bowls, the only ones I remember being as dominant was I remember the Montana team beating Denver 55-10 in a year when that was one of the great 49er teams that just rolled through the season.
And that score sticks out to me. That score is so memorable because it just exemplified how dominant the win was.
Yes. But the difference with that team was they just sailed through the season because they were just that good. And what you saw in the Super Bowl was just sort of, okay, well, this is the 49ers. This is Montana, this is Walsh, this is the 49ers, and this is what they do. That's why this one, you wouldn't have felt this. I mean, this one, I mean, for the Eagles to come out and just absolutely crush the Kansas City Chiefs, who, by the way, I mean, will go down now as one of an all-time dynasty. They will, just based on what they've already accomplished. But it ended ingloriously last night, and the Eagles left no doubt who was the better team on the field last night, and it was really just amazing to watch. I got the feeling. We had a discussion. I was on the post game show with Seth Joyner, and I said after the Didinger interception and pick six, this game's over.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just felt like at that point there was no coming back for the Chiefs. It was obvious that the Eagles had such complete control of that game and complete control of the line of scrimmage that there was no way the Chiefs were coming back in that game. And it really resembled, and we talked about this on Friday when I was with you guys, what do the Eagles have to do to win this game? And I said that what they have to do, it really begins with, on the defensive side, is they have to be able to get the same kind of pressure on Patrick Mahomes that Tampa Bay did a couple of years ago. And if you went back and looked at that game, that was a game where Patrick Mahomes was running for his life the entire game because the Tampa defense just completely caved in the Kansas City line. Well, we saw it again last night. I mean, it looked. I was reading one column that was written by my good friend Mark Wicker, who's now an online columnist, worked with me here in Philadelphia. But he had a great description where he said Patrick Mahomes was spent all night throwing from a burning building, which is that's exactly how it looked. And even a great quarterback, and he is a great quarterback, can't win games under those circumstances.
Well, Ray, one thing that stood out to me, and of course Ray Didinger with us right now on a great day, an all-time Philadelphia day. So, Ray, for all the redemption story talks, rightfully so, of Sirianni and Hurts, ironically the most discussed thing about the defense before the season began that worried people was the pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
And from Sweat, who I thought other than Jalen would have been the MVP, to BG, who gave him great snaps, Jalen Carter, Ajomo, Milton Williams, Nolan Smith. I mean, Ray, they rocked. They rocked the Chiefs. Like, Mahomes had no shot.
No, he didn't. And he is as slippery and resourceful as they come. I mean, we've seen him do that before many, many times, where he just gets out of trouble and extends the play. And next thing you know, he's hitting Kelsey or he's hitting Worthy or somebody downfield, and what looked like a sack now turns into a 40-yard gain. And there was none of that last night. There was nowhere to go, and I thought it was just masterful. I mean, one of the things, and I wish I could have seen more of it. And I'm hoping now to go back and get my hands on an all 22 and just watch the whole field, because yes, the pass rush was an enormous part of the story, and the pass rush was tremendous. And the Eagles getting that kind of consistent pressure, just rushing four guys, is pretty amazing. But it was obvious that Fangio thought he could do it. After studying the film, I mean, he just felt like I'm sure he felt really good about all the matchups all across the line. And he especially felt good that he knew Carter was going to take care of business in the middle, but he felt really good about winning on the edges, which he did the whole game. But also part of it was the coverage downfield must have been excellent.
Totally.
Because there were not a lot, but there were a few occasions where Mahomes did have a little time and had a play dialed up. And you saw him, he was thinking about throwing deep on a couple of occasions, and he looked, and it wasn't there. So, I mean, this was a total defensive effort. I mean, they won it at the defensive line, but the guys in the secondary must have been playing great. And then, of course, you get the takeaways and the pick six, which I don't think there has ever been a Super Bowl. I mean, I'm just saying this off the top of my head, kind of from memory. Maybe I'm forgetting one. But I don't think there's ever been a pick six in a Super Bowl that team didn't win. I think that is such a game-shifting kind of play. From just a psychological standpoint, such a devastating thing that I think every team that's had a pick six in a Super Bowl has won it, and that's why I had the feeling the Didinger play, to me, that put that one to bed. I mean, we had another whole half to play, but to me the game was over.
Ray, do you remember a coach transforming at any point? This season, Nick Sirianni looked so completely different by the end of the season than the way that he looked heading into the bye week. Week 5 of the regular season, that Nick Sirianni by the end of it was unrecognizable to us. And I think in a good way. we all got, I feel a lot more faith in Nick. Do you remember seeing anything like that in the past? A coach who actually improved himself and you could see it?
Well, the only other one that I can think that it's not exactly the same comparison, but it's similar in the sense of transforming himself was Dick Vermeil 2.0. The Dick Vermeil that coached the Eagles and coached them to a Super Bowl and did just a tremendous job of bringing a team up from absolute oblivion and getting into a Super Bowl. That guy was a lot different than the guy that came back 14 years later with the Rams. In terms of how he approached his job and how he approached just the way he wanted to handle players, the way he wanted to work the players. Dick came to understand that you couldn't work guys at that time the way you worked them in the 70s. It just wasn't going to work. So he came back and really changed his coaching methodology. He was still demanding, but he wasn't quite as demanding of himself and his players, and had a lighter hand in coaching and was more willing to delegate to his assistants in the second go-around. And it wound up where he took an equally bad team in the Rams and turned them into Super Bowl champions. He really was like a different coach the second time around, and it helped him win a championship. And I think we saw the same thing with Nick Sirianni.
Just piggybacking on that, Ray, my sense is that the Sirianni-Hurts combo is probably the greatest redemption story in the history of Philadelphia sports. Does that sound accurate to you?
I don't know. I can't offhand. I can't think of another one. I can't think of another one. I mean,
Rocky.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but nobody knew Rocky before he, got in there with Creed. Yeah, he was just a bum on the street.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Rocky and Mickey. I mean, maybe we could go back to that. But I mean, it's. I can't think of another one quite like this because this season, I mean, you look back over this season, and people will. I mean, you look back over all the wins and, a 10-game winning streak. Man, this doesn't happen in the NFL. Yeah. They won 10 road. I mean, this team's been around since 1933. Never had a streak like that. They did. They wind up winning 18 games on the season to start the season in Sao Paulo. Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy season with a lot of twists and turns and long. I mean, these NFL seasons now are so damn long. I mean, I don't know how the coaches and the players get through it. I honestly don't. I don't know how they have the strength and the stamina to be able to do this.
They walk through a lot,
and some teams don't get through it. Meaning the Lions, who I do believe were a truly great team, but they got crushed on injuries. And Ray, let's talk about Jalen's performance last night. Can you put into words what stood out to you with his, MVP performance? He was incredible.
Yeah, he was. He was. And there are just times with him where you just see, and you usually see it very early in the game, sometimes like in the first series, where you just say, he's on point tonight. I mean, you just see it. And it was there. It was there in this game right from the very beginning.
It was there, and the officials took it from him initially on that opening drive with the bad call against AJ.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought so too because I thought that was an opportunity for a really, really big play early in the game. Yeah. A daring call going deep in that spot. He throws a perfect ball. I thought it was a very, very marginal kind of call. I thought we're picking up exactly where we left off with James Bradbury here. But it turned out that it didn't matter. I mean, it turned out that it really didn't matter, that the Eagles were just that much better last night, and nothing was going to deny them. But Hurts had, he was so locked in this game. I mean, you could just see it. And, 17 for 22, 221 yards. I mean, there have been, in Super Bowls, we've seen bigger passing games. But I mean, the way he just ran the offense and the way he just looked so in command in comparison to Patrick Mahomes, who's a great player, who looked like he was completely under siege the whole night. I mean, there was just a calmness about Hurts that you just felt like, this is something he's really been thinking about since he lost that last Super Bowl. He's been thinking about one thing, and that's getting back to this game. And coming back and winning it. And it was obvious from the very beginning that that's what his plan was. And he was, right from the very first series, and almost from the very first snap, he seemed in complete command of the situation, his team, and himself.
Incredible. Ray, final thing here, and I ask this to you, but by extension, I ask it to everyone listening who's lost loved ones that were Eagles fans. Did you think of your parents last night, Ray? Did you think of your grandfather who owned that bar that you learned Eagles football from? Did you think about him last night?
Absolutely. I mean, and you know, the first championship game I saw was 1960 at Franklin Field when the Eagles with Van Brocklin and Bednarik and Tommy McDonald beat that great Lombardi Packer team. And I was there. You know, I was sitting in Section Double E with my parents and with my grandparents. And the final tackle, the legendary Chuck Bednarik's tackle of Jim Taylor at the 7-yard line as the clock ran out, happened right in front of me. I mean, it felt like I could reach out and touch them. So that memory is never going to leave me. And every time I'm at an Eagles game, and they're playing for the high stakes, which they've been doing a lot lately, yeah, I absolutely think about that. And when they actually win it, as they did in Minneapolis, and then again last night, the first thing I think about is my parents and my grandparents, and it's a big part of the emotion of it. I think it's very common across the city. I just think the people that were out celebrating last night, I think the vast majority of them had exactly those kinds of thoughts, because it's in this town more than any other place I think in the country. Football is family here. I mean, to me it's just one and the same. And when you have a season like this, and when you have a moment like this, it brings all of those emotions together and makes it even more special.
Ray, the Eagles are really, really special to us, but so too are you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. And we'll talk very soon, probably later this week. And I hope you get an opportunity. Obviously, I know you did last night with your wife, but with your kid, I'm sure that'll be another legendary hug, your son. And we love you, Ray. You know that.
Well, I can tell you this. Eagles Encyclopedia Edition 4 is underway.
Nice. Awesome, Ray.
All right, guys.
All right,
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Well done.
Thank you, Ray.
That's good news.